growing up in our home was, there were some good times, there were a lot of bad times. Things were difficult at best. It was hard.
Okay.
Their fighting always scared us. Fighting sometimes would be so scary when we would have to call the police, or there was an incident where my grandpa was hurt. And so, yeah, it would scare us to the point where we would intervene ourselves when we got big enough to do. My dad was really strict, and it was mainly hard on my brother. My dad used a belt, so it was not easy for us. But that's the way my dad learned. That's what happened to him. And so for all the things that happened to my dad, that's what he chose to do. My dad expected him to be one way, and Brian was another way. And so he wanted to do things his way and not the way my dad expected him to do. So they butted heads a lot. What was it like growing up a shepherd? You didn't tell anybody if they didn't know, because that would associate you with, usually with Frank and Skip, because if they didn't know my dad, and they wouldn't relate the two. Even though you had Shepherd for a last name, usually you would have to tell them, and so we didn't tell anybody we were related to them, so they didn't think you were like them, because my dad wasn't like them, and neither were we. A role model, Frank being a role model? Not a good one, no. No, he was not a very good person. Drinking, drugs, really messed up. I think it was hardest on my brother, being that he was the only boy. It didn't really affect us. I think them trying to make Brian be like them instead of be like my dad was very hard for my brother. There wasn't much he couldn't do. He was the sweetest kid. He was the most fun-loving kid. He would give you a hug just to make sure you were happy. If he thought somebody else was sad, he'd find a way to make you happy. They would ride bikes, skateboards, anything that had wheels, anything to go fast. He loved to go fast. By the time he could drive, that's all he did. Cars, girls, anything fast. He couldn't sit still. The hardest thing for him, I think, was school. Him and my sister. He loved going to school, but school work was really hard for him.
I think Brian has really developed as a human being, where I think he knows who he is as a person, and he's comfortable with who he is as a human being, and he is a good person. So that's my sense of that, and I try and put myself somewhat in his spot, how I would be reacting, and he's amazing that he's reacted to his circumstances, and he's just very resilient in this, and he knows there's no, guarantees. He just keeps himself positive.
I always tell him to be positive, to always make sure that he doesn't give up no matter what, and that everything that we're doing is to benefit him, and that he always has the love and support of his family, no matter what. I'm very proud of Brian. He's done a tremendous job with what has happened to him in his life, and being able to not get himself in any trouble, to stay positive, to get his GED, to take any class that he can, to make certain that he takes care of himself and to do what's best for him, and to know that everything that he's doing is to keep himself out of trouble so that he can do good for himself, given the situation that he's in.